Hello and welcome to a rapid revision session for the early Tudors. We're going to look at Mary I's religious changes with a focus on her legislation. In this video, we'll survey the major laws passed by government and chart them against the other developments that occurred at the same time. So here's how knowing this content helps you as a student. Legislation shows you the top-down nature of Mary's Counter-Reformation. It shows you the concerns of the English political classes through Parliament's support and occasional opposition. And it allows you to compare the changes that were made to religion under Henry VIII and then Edward VI. Here are some factors that helped and promoted the Counter-Reformation. The drive that Mary's will gave, the actions of Cardinal Reginald Pole, and the latent Catholicism which was present in the country, particularly in the provinces. Meanwhile, factors that hindered the Counter-Reformation were Parliament's occasional opposition, the fact that Pole's return to the country was delayed in the first years of the reign, and that was linked to the diplomacy around Mary's Spanish marriage, and in the later years of the reign, the opposition of the Pope, Paul IV, who was anti-Spanish and anti-Habsburg. So here's a timeline that we'll work through. So let's start with 1553. In the first year of her reign, Mary promised leniency. Thomas Cranmer was arrested, and she voluntarily relinquished the title of Supreme Head of the Church. In this first year, concerned about their monastic lands, Parliament refused to repeal the Act of Supremacy, and towards the end of the year is the first Act of Repeal. The first Act of Repeal restored the Church to the condition it had been in 1547, the end of the reign of Henry VIII. It undid the Edwardian Reformation. The Mass was revived, rituals were restored, and clerical celibacy re-established. In 1554, the mass exodus of Protestants to the continent began, numbered about 800 in total. A number of leading Protestant bishops were deprived, and at the end of the year, Cardinal Reginald Pole returned. This is a year of key legislation: royal injunctions, heresy laws, and the Second Act of Repeal. The 1554 injunctions instituted by Mary show the type of counter-reformation that she wanted. Bishops were ordered to suppress heresy. Clergy ordained under Edward VI were forced to be reordained. Holy days, processions and ceremonies were restored, and married clergy were removed. The revival of the heresy laws, which were ancient laws, allowed the arrest, repression and punishment of heretics. Parliament originally refused to pass them, but did so when guarantees were made that the ownership of former monastic lands would not be restored to the Church. These laws indicate Mary's concern over the lack of religious authority. And in 1554, the Second Act of Repeal restored the Church to its condition of 1529, undoing the Henrican Reformation. And all anti-papal legislation from 1529 onwards was removed. So from 1555 the burnings begin. Cranmer was deprived of his position as Archbishop of Canterbury, and later in the year the London Synod, under the leadership of Pole, began to meet. In 1556 Thomas Cranmer was burned, and Cardinal Pole was deprived of his position as papal legate, as the dispute with the papacy grew. The London Synod passed its 12 decrees. The 12 decrees issued by Synod, the ruling church council, indicate the top-down nature of Paul's reforms. They established clerical discipline, focusing on absenteeism, pluralism, simony, and heresy. So to test this content, pause the video and see if you can identify the year in which these events happened. You might like to pause now. And here are those answers. And you can apply this content to this source-based exercise. That brings us to the end of this quick revision session. Best of luck for your preparation for your exams.